Okay, so by now you have evaluated your site against the platform and content sections of the Balanced Digital Scorecard. Next, we need to pop on over to audience and conversion in the same spreadsheet. Without further ado, let's pop into it and get started. So we know that it's not just platform and content that matter when it comes to ranking in Google. So let's break out audience and conversion as metrics. First, we need to look at the total number of linking root domains as well as the quality of those linking root domains. Now, a linking root domain might sound like jargon. Basically, it's just another website that links to us. The reason we're calling them linking root domains, however, is that I don't want us to look at individual links from, let's say, youtube.com. I just want to see that youtube.com has linked to us. So if there was a BuzzFeed article about Skillshare, I don't necessarily care if there have been multiple BuzzFeed articles about Skillshare that have then linked to our website. I want to see that BuzzFeed is an authoritative domain that has linked to us. And I want to see how many of those domains I have in total, as well as how many of those domains are actually authoritative and essentially have a good reputation in Google's eyes. The next line items are going to cover off on whether people talk about / share our content broadly, whether that be on social networks or on other websites. And then after that, we're going to look and see whether we, with our own website, are actively promoting our content, whether we're encouraging other people to share our content on social networks. And then finally, we're going to do a somewhat subjective review of whether we're creating content explicitly for organic acquisition. This means we're not just being self-promotional all the time. We want to create content that's uniquely shareable and interesting to our audiences. As a result, we're going to need to see whether our content really meets that need. So after we've reviewed our own website for how we're speaking to and promoting content to our audiences, we're going to make sure that our website is conversion rate optimized, otherwise known as CRO. Of course, we could do an entire audit across the whole website for CRO, but we don't have time for that. So looking at our sampled pages, we're going to evaluate their calls to action against the following line items. We're going to first make sure that the calls to action are clear. Is it obvious what a user is being asked to do and what they're going to get out of this? So if you're asking a user for their email or for payment information, they need to know that they're either going to get a PDF or some other sort of reward. Maybe it is a t-shirt or another thing that they're ordering from your site in exchange for the information they're giving you. They need to be aware that they're giving you something and it's an even exchange. This next line item is conversions are appropriate to funnel steps, meaning it's understood that when I ask you for something like payment information or like your email address, it's the right time to be asking you for this. And again, it's then clear what you will receive in exchange for the information you're giving my website. And finally, we want to make sure our calls to action actually match the user intent that they're inferring from your content. So you shouldn't ask a user for their payment information when you've promised to give them something for free. Now, let's look at a few examples of what this will look like when you're evaluating your website against the audience and conversion metrics. And let's go over where we're going to find those answers. We're going to look at the quality of these linking root domains because you can have a ton of links from a low quality website which really won't pay many dividends for your own site. As a result, we need to look at those domains' domain authority. It's a metric that other websites like Moz or Ahrefs.com or other SEO companies have put together as ways to measure the quality of websites that link to other websites. So chances are, if you were looking at a reputable news site like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or Scientific American, it's likelier that those websites have a higher domain authority because they've got a good reputation when it comes to other websites. Other websites link to them aggressively and use them as definitive resources for their information. Then that builds up their reputation overall, and we want to make sure that those good reputations are trickling down to our own website. So where I like to look for this information is in a tool called ahrefs.com. Ahrefs is a pay-to-play tool, which means that you will need to license this software. However, I highly recommend it. It's a really powerful SEO tool, and I use it on almost a daily basis. I've already done some legwork for us. I've logged into Ahrefs and put in our domain, Skillshare.com. I want to see all of the linking root domains that point to all of Skillshare.com, not just one page. So I'm making sure that this section over here is set to domain with all its subdomains and not just exact URL or the domain without its subdomains. I've clicked on over to referring domains because I want to see again which of these domains are linking to us rather than individual links. And then finally, I'm going to change the link type to do follow because I only care about domains that are already sending us link equity rather than domains that have actively chosen not to send us any link equity. So when this loads, you'll have a nice list that you can then export of all the domains that Ahrefs can identify that link to your website. What I then like to do is export these and bucket our domains by their domain rank, otherwise known as domain authority. This will tell us largely how reputable these domains are. So I'll bucket each of these domains in groups of domain ratings from 90 to 100, and then 89 to 80, and then 79 to 70, so on and so forth, so that I can see approximately how many really popular and really reputable websites are linking to us as opposed to less authoritative ones. Once you have those data, you can plug them into the sheet on our spreadsheet labeled linking root domains so that you can make sure that all of these are collected in one place, and then a chart will automatically appear when you have all of your competitor data filled out. So again, when you export the do follow linking root domains and their domain ranks from either Moz or ahrefs.com, you'll plug in the total number of linking root domains that have domain rankings under each of these buckets. With a domain rating of 0 to 10 will then be counted under your brand's column B. And it'll continue up until this last group of domain ratings 91 to 100. After analyzing our linking root domains, we're going to need to see whether other people talk about our content and whether it seems like we're actively promoting our content. So the tool that I like to use for this is called BuzzSumo. This is another tool that you need to license. First, I like to see what other people are saying about our brand, but not from our brand. I don't care if we think that we're the best. I care what other people think about us. So using BuzzSumo, I'll put in our brand's name, and then I'll use this rule, which is indicated by a minus sign, to exclude any mentions of our name from our own domain. I like to set the time frame to the past year because it's a nice round number and it gives us a sense of who talks about us when, and accounts for any seasonality associated with our brand. Again, we can export this list, and then I like to come up with a total number of engagements from each social network to see in general how actively other people are talking about us. This is the best easy to reach metric that we've got for this, and it's yet to let me down. Next up, we need to see whether we are actively promoting our own content. As a result, I like to plug in the actual domain of our own website because I want to see in general how actively people are promoting stuff from our site on social networks. Again, this isn't the most perfect metric. We're not the only people sharing content from our website. However, it's usually very obvious when you're looking through these to see which websites have prioritized sharing their content outside of their websites and which ones haven't. So again, set this to the past year, put in your own website's domain, and then export all of the shared content from the past year and round up the total engagements from each of these items from our website. When you have those data ready, you'll take them over to our spreadsheet again and log it under Other People Talk About Our Content so that you can better examine your performance against your competitors when you're ready. For the actively promoting our content piece, I haven't included a spreadsheet there. You will need to separately track, on average, how many shares your content gets from your own domain. You'll want to keep a track of those shares against your competitors so that you have an idea of how actively your website promotes its content against your competitions. Whether we're accurately creating content for organic acquisition, I like to use a tool like Ahrefs or Moz or even SEMrush to see what the estimated traffic is for the content that we're producing. So for this, I've gone on over to Ahrefs and navigated to Content Explorer. Then I put in my website's domain and I search everywhere to see what the most popular content appears to be for my domain. And then from that export, I'm going to want to pull the organic traffic estimates for these URLs. I'll do the same thing for a competition when we're ready to do that. In this case, I've already done the work for us, and I've given Skillshare a 2.